Are the Dolphins, are they at a place where maybe, even though Chris Greer is probably too stupid to do it, should they be thinking about a rebuild? Or is Chris Greer not a GM who at this point in his career, with his tenure having been what it has been, if he announced rebuild, do you think Stephen Ross would fire him?
I'm expecting tomorrow night at the draft, the Dolphins' first pick to be interior offensive line. Because they have neglected that the way your own father has neglected you.
Everybody to another edition of the Rock Pile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And it is my 40th birthday. It's my 40th birthday, and I've decided, Chris, to spend it here in a podcast studio with you. Does that make you feel special at all?
Not at all.
That a heterosexual life mate and life partner that is such as myself
I don't like my birthday being acknowledged at all.
It is sort of uncomfortable, isn't it?
I think we're even at 40. It's your 40th. Let's have a big party. It's my birthday month. We should have been celebrating all month long. But I think you and I both have the same mindset to birthdays. It's the same as Ron Swanson's. We don't want you to know when it is.
I'll say this. So I had a series of interactions at the office. You know, my office, like a lot of them, there's people who in those offices go out of their way to make people, or at least try to make people feel special on their birthday. You know, you'll see it like the week beforehand, where all of a sudden everyone's in hushed tones kind of passing around a folder that's got a birthday card in it and like, don't let them know. It's like everyone knows. That's what you people do here is every time it's someone's birthday, you all sign a card and that's what this is. Well, our audit's going on. I was out of the office last week for some family matter, and it was just funny the way it all came down because everyone that I immediately work with is just swamped because it's audit season, and this is the week where our auditors are in the office. And so I came in today, Chris, walked into the office, and went to work. And that's fine. Like, I'm like you. I don't need pomp and circumstance. I don't need to be celebrated. In fact, I would rather be derided by people than celebrated. I don't know how to take... It's a weird thing where when someone says, hey, that Drew guy is awesome, I get like a warm, fuzzy feeling in my chest. If someone were to come to me and be like, hey, man, you're awesome... It feels like when you go to, like, it's the equivalent of going to shake someone's hand, but it's wet. It's like, ugh, God, I don't know what to do with that sensation. So then it's almost like I feel like, Chris, I have to fight this inner urge to do something bad to get you to know. It's like, oh, you think I'm cool? Watch me do this thing. Now you won't like me anymore because I don't know why I'm uncomfortable with that. You know, maybe a psychologist out there could dive into it with me if I cared.
I don't think they have the time for that.
I don't care to fix it. But so then imagine how funny it was watching everyone else at work because they forgot my birthday, which I don't care about. And then at about 9 a.m., an email from HR, which I'm pretty sure is just automated, goes out like, happy birthday to Drew. And all of a sudden, the people in the office who do all the birthday stuff, like they're coming up to me almost like they feel like I feel slighted. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're so sorry. We completely forgot. And I'm like, it wouldn't bother me if you had, like.
I wish you didn't know it.
I wish that none of you knew this was happening to me.
That's what my response would be. I don't care. I wish you didn't know that.
And so then it becomes, they're like, wait, what do you mean happening to you? And I go, oh no, happening to me. This is definitely a thing that's happening to me, like an affliction, right? And then, Chris, here's the thing. For those of you out there who don't like your birthday celebrated, the quickest way to get someone to glaze over like a donut in reference to it and just leave you alone is to start pointing out how time is just a construct of human beings trying to like make sense of their own existence. Like, you have a date on a calendar, but who says that calendar is correct? What happens if I cross the international date line and don't tell you? Does that mean my birthday happened and we no longer have to celebrate it? Like what? And they go, okay, you're complicating this. No, you complicated it by coming over here and talking to me about it. And then they leave. I'm 40. And it's weird. I think the hardest thing to break about it, because I've felt old for years. So the people who are like, oh, you're officially old. I'm a 56-year-old man in a 40-year-old man's body. I've got 2 bad shoulders. I've got a torn meniscus. I've got a fractured ankle that never healed properly. My fingers can just crack unto themselves without having to really do anything. My toes do the same thing. I'm sure I'll have arthritis by the time I'm in my 50s. What else? A lot of concussions, some diagnosed, some undiagnosed.
Your liver.
My liver has obviously taken a beating. Like, I'm not thriving physically, and yet here I am, right? We remain. And I've probably got the temperament of Gran Torino most of the time towards most things about society. So turning 40 but feeling 50, it's like, guys, it's to quote Indiana Jones, it's not the years, it's the miles. 40 doesn't feel special. Right? Like, it just doesn't. Chris, did it hit you at all when you took the plunge?
No, I don't care. I had people when I was working at Sumitomo, people would be like, "Oh, when's your birthday?" It's in the summer. When? Don't worry about it. It's in the summer. I'll let you know after it happens.
It's just very funny, right? Like, that idea of the birthday and the stuff, and then everyone comes up to you and I almost wonder if people feel pressured to come to you and try to say things like they have to be folksy and jokey about it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, midlife crisis. It's like, first of all,
you're over the hill.
My 20s were nothing but a crisis. The fact that I'm still alive is it's honestly a miracle and proof that God may exist. So with that in mind, there's no room for a midlife crisis because now I'm just tired. Midlife crises are, I think, reserved for people who didn't do enough. They didn't do enough. They didn't chase enough didn't chase enough of their, gender of choice. They didn't take enough risks when they were younger. They, didn't shoot their shot, as they say. I've done too much. I did too much of that over the first, figured from the moment I was able to legally buy beer until the time I met my wife, I did more than my fair share. I did my fair share and yours, Chris, of taking risks, shooting my shot. I'm exhausted now. Now I'm just a tired old man. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be 40 still trying to be cool, right? You're not supposed to be a 41-year-old man who cares about what's going on TikTok.
Or you shouldn't have a TikTok.
Or who cares about the latest celebrity craze. No. Guys, do you know what's fat? This one's reserved for you, idiot. You shouldn't be in your 40s still trying to be fashionable. Hang it up. What are you trying to prove? You, as our resident fashionista, what do you get out of it?
That I'm a good-looking man in his 40s.
And you can't just feel confident in that?
No.
I know I'm a hunk of garbage with bad teeth and a terrible attitude. And guess what? I don't care. I've actually reached the pinnacle of my existence, I think, already, because I've made my peace with who and what I am. 40's the best. In fact, if anything, this is all going to be the greatest because there's no pressure now.
Yeah. Well, now the pressure is in front of you. You got 3 glasses. I went to Georgia, bought some bourbon. So drink a glass. Tell me what letter is at the bottom of the glass, and then I want you to give it your own rating and how much you'd pay for it. Because then I'll tell you when we're done.
Okay. I like how you've done it professionally. You've put them all in Glencairns.
Yeah. It's the only way to do it. I can see you're sipping glass A.
So this is glass A. Ooh. So glass A is very smooth. It's got a lot of flavor on the front and 0 bite on the back end. So I'm going to guess it's probably a lower proof spirit. But it's very smooth, which makes me think you paid a little bit of a premium for it.
What would you pay for it?
This strikes me as a bottle that probably falls in the $45 to $60 range. Definitely not 40 or lower. Yeah, I think it's about there. 45 to 6. Am I allowed to go in $15 increments?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're. I think the bottles that I put in the glasses are my biggest price discrepancies.
Okay.
Three levels of pricing. But I mean, I got all. We don't want to watch you.
Oh, so that's professional podcasting right there.
Yeah.
101. Gargle on air.
We don't want to watch you gargle.
Gargle
I got 6 bottles of bourbon and can't get any of them here in the Buffalo area.
This one's a little darker in color. This is Glass B. It definitely has a very different scent from this one, where this smelled kind of light and almost like you almost struggled to pick up notes of what was in there. This one, like, it has a very bready kind of a thing. I know Mark Smith is listening to this, just cursing at both of us. I'm just going to mention mouthfeel just to upset him.
Does have a good mouthfeel.
It's spicy.
Spicy scent.
Okay. Interesting. That definitely tastes like a rye of some kind. It's like funky. It's got a little bit of that funky kind of aged thing going on that rye usually has. It's smooth. Also, it did a thing like rubbing alcohol does when it hits your mouth, where it just like the roof of my mouth went numb the second the liquor touched it. And so then, like, it's got a good flavor to it. No bite, no burn.
And how much would you pay a bottle for that?
I'm going to guess it's more expensive than I would think based on the flavor, because I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's one of those things where based on the proof and the fact that, like, the impact it had in my mouth, I bet you it's a little more expensive. I'm going to say this is probably about $60 to $70 a bottle.
All right, hit that last one up.
Why don't you vamp?
The one that you just had is, I think, the most interesting bottle that I purchased on my trip.
Really?
I got it at the big box store of Atlanta, Total Wine on North Point Parkway.
So, letter C. Okay. This one, like, I can smell alcohol in this one. So, it's got to be a higher proof whiskey. Very alcohol forward, very pungent. The proof is so high that it's hard to even really taste the booze in it. There again, some of that is, again, you pay more for your higher proof bourbons and liquors. I'm going to guess that's like a $40 to $55 bottle. Maybe, I almost want to say 35 to 40, 50. God, that was rough.
All right, I'll read you the results. You did better. You did better than I thought you would. So A that you had is Chattanooga whiskey, bottled in bond, 100 proof, aged at least 4 years, $37.99. I bought a backup bottle. Where did I get that? I got that at in Knoxville, across the street from our hotel. And then on the way back, I picked up a second bottle because that was one of my favorites. So the second, and that's $37.99.
$37 for the most drinkable whiskey on the table.
And then B, Big Creek, which Chattanooga whiskey, you guess 45 to 60 price range, which is pretty good. The second one, B, Big Creek Distilling in Dahlonega, Georgia. It's the most interesting bottle I got. I got it at Total Wine in North Point Parkway in Alpharetta. Going through all of their bourbons extensively that they had on the shelf of what I knew I couldn't get here, 97 proof.
Okay.
Aged 7 years. Mm-hmm. Distilled by Big Creek Distilling in Dahlonega. Mm-hmm. $61.99.
Okay.
So I went age 7 years. They made the juice 97 proof. I thought that was good for the price point, so that's why I picked it up.
Sure.
And then the last one.
It is classified as a bourbon, though, right?
Yes. None of these are rye.
Which is strange because it just has that funk. That
now, the
ryes
last
have.
one, Kyle Washington will probably choke you out on this. That is Frey Ranch Uncut. And you, I guess, didn't like that out of the...
Well, I think the proof just makes it hard to... So knowing that it's uncut, that makes sense. Because the proof on that, you almost can't taste the flavor of the bourbon.
It's like, I think it's 121 proof.
That sounds about right.
Frey Ranch Uncut, $84.99.
See, and I guess, and this is the problem I have with whiskey, folks. You don't have to be a pretentious ass about it. The most drinkable thing on the table here was less than $40. Meanwhile, the most expensive thing on here is lighter fluid. If you put that in your mouth, it hurts you. Like there's no benefit. It's not even one of those things of putting it on ice. Like, oh, if I water it down, no, because then you won't taste it because the taste is so light. I might as well have just done a shot of Bacardi 151. You mean to tell me they're charging $80 for that?
Yeah, it's delicious.
I hate it more.
I like it.
God. See, guys, and this is where becoming a bourbon enthusiast, it still belies the white trash that you might really be. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking, obviously we're recording this the day before the NFL draft. In the last couple days, if you've been listening, if you haven't yet, go back and check them out. The pre-draft AFC's roundup shows that I did with our friends Alfar Tiaga from 3 Yards Per Carry and Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet. And I got a lot of interesting feedback, specifically from the Jets one, Chris. Now, I know you haven't listened to them.
No, I was busy.
So here's what I'll ask. Am I wrong to question, like I did in the Miami episode, are the Dolphins, are they at a place where maybe, even though Chris Greer is probably too stupid to do it, should they be thinking about a rebuild? Is it time to rebuild? Or do they think, or is Chris Greer not a GM who at this point in his career, with his tenure having been what it has been, if he announced rebuild, do you think Stephen Ross would fire him?
Maybe. I'm expecting tomorrow night at the draft, the Dolphins' first pick to be interior offensive line because they have neglected that the way your own father has neglected you.
Guys, Chris actually, I know some of you heard that and were like, man, that's cold. No, Chris actually made one of the greatest jokes. I still tell it. We were talking about my sons and how I was hoping that they would get my wife's side of the family's height and my arm length and other intangibles. And Chris goes, wait, he goes, it sounds like they're genetically predisposed towards being a good NFL tight end. And I was like, how do you figure? He goes, well, they'd have your wingspan and ferocity and the elusiveness of your He's like, the height from your wife's side of the family, the height and size, your wingspan and ferocity, and the elusiveness of your biological father. And it remains one of the funnier jokes I've ever heard. I think that the Dolphins are at a weird crossroads and they could continue to delay the inevitable by another year with this draft. If they hit on enough picks, they just have to hit on a lot of them because even this Jalen Ramsey trade talk, right? That happened the day, that press conference happened the day I interviewed Elf, Chris. And it was awesome because to get his unvarnished, I haven't really had time to emotionally process all this yet. It was pretty cool. And so with that being said, you also have the New York Jets who have a brand new brain trust in place, new GM, new head coach, first time GM and head coach. So neither of these guys have been anywhere else. They're here together for the first time. And they've already done some things that show you they have a little bit of common sense. Like the way they handled the Aaron Rodgers thing. Masterclass. Wouldn't have done it any other way. So then the question for them just becomes for me, the thing that I posited with Scott was just the concept of how interesting they're going to be more so than any other team in the draft for me, even more so than our Buffalo Bills, because how they handle this draft is going to tell me a lot about, one, how they view their current roster, and two, kind of what their ethos is. Would they prefer to chase a star, right? You don't get many, if you're a good football team, you don't get many dart throws in the top 10. They come around once in a blue moon. The Buffalo Bills had them with Josh Allen, and we had to work to get there. And we got it with Ed Oliver. We haven't been back in that conversation since. So twice in 7 years?
Yeah.
Over the same timeline, all the Jets have done is draft in the top, and they've just whiffed on the picks. And I kind of outlined they've actually drafted more offensive players than the Bills have over that same time span. Since they got Darnold and we got Allen, they've taken 16 offensive players to our 10 in the top 4 rounds. But it's not about number. It's about quality over quantity. And so in that way, it'll be interesting to see if their front office goes, hey, we're in the top whatever, we're 7. Let's take the most talented player that falls to us, because hopefully this is the last time we're in this range to snag this type of a talent.
I've seen a lot of people that do mocks professionally put some tight end. Like they get the first tight end off the board, which
we actually talked about that concept.
Makes no sense. It's like let's replay us getting Kyle Brady, however many years ago in the mid-90s.
And then you look at the Patriots and just what the Patriots are and where they're at in what is a rebuild, but they're confident that they think that they have the guy. They tore down the salary cap and then spent a ton of it this offseason because they had to. So now they're going into the draft still with a unfinished roster and a lot of warts. And so this all got me thinking after we did the AFC Roundup series, just looking back at our own Buffalo Bills, and just if we're going to take a philosophical approach before we record tonight's live show, the Buffalo Bills and the concept that in my mind, like one thing I always love is the draft winners and losers. Like,
oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at NFL.com. The first read, winners and losers from round 1 of the 2024 NFL Draft. This article was published on April 26th, which, Chris, if you want to check me if I'm wrong, but what were the draft dates last year? I have to imagine that's just a day or two after the draft happened.
Yeah.
The Bears were crowned as winners, okay, for getting Caleb Williams and Roma Dunes.
It was the day after the first round.
Okay. The Minnesota Vikings were crowned as winners. Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, maybe that one. Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars was crowned as a winner because of the draft pick of Brian Thomas Jr. The losers were the Raiders, Dallas Turner, and the Minnesota Vikings, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Allen sorely needs a wide receiver, but GM Brandon Beane either wasn't crazy about his options or saw more value in compiling more picks. The Bills traded back twice on Thursday, first with the Chiefs and then again with the Panthers. Yes, this is a deep draft at wide receiver. It's also likely the Bills will find more help at the position in the coming days, but for a team that just traded Stephon Diggs to Houston and doesn't have a true number 1 in the roster, this wasn't a great look to end the night. And you have fans who feel that way. You will have fans in the aftermath of day 1, day 2, day 3, who will show up to work on Monday morning and walk around the cooler going, I can't believe that happened to my team. Like, insert team name here. I need you all to hear me when I say that the Buffalo Bills, no matter what they do, asterisks, hang on, put a pause on that, short of drafting a kicker or punter in round 1,
and quarterback,
Sebastian Janikowski style,
quarterback,
I guess I'll throw quarterback into that conversation. There is nothing they can do over the course of the next 5 days to be crowned losers when all is said and done. Like, how is it that this pundit says about the same draft, Trevor Lawrence is a winner and Josh Allen is a loser? One of them doesn't make the playoffs. One of them is the league MVP. I don't know. These things, like, it's like we put ourselves inside of a vacuum and we become prisoners of the moment within the NFL draft. As if, Chris, how many draft picks are there in the NFL if you want to give that a Goog for me?
It's like 250 something.
Not all of these players make the NFL. And if you think about that, that's 250 players over
257 to be exact.
So if there's 257 players over a 4-year span, that's 1,028 draft selections. In the NFL, you get 53 game day rosters, around 32 teams. That's 1,696 potential roster spots on game day. Now, that means that, Chris, you could, in theory, turn the entire league over every single year with the number of bodies you're throwing at this thing. But the veteran retention rate's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like rookies get run, but there are a lot of guys who just like hang around. Why do you think AJ Epinesa is on a second contract here? Because there wasn't anybody better than him.
Isn't the I believe we talked about this a couple years ago. The breakdown of rounds in the NFL are mostly number one is consists of first round talent, and I think number two was UDFAs, or it might have been third in round groupings that we've done. So I mean, you're gonna find Buffalo's gonna find somebody this weekend, and they might find somebody UDFA. I mean, Joe Andreessen was UDFA, and he fucking made the 53 last year.
So the reason that I bring all of this up is because, again, Chris, I'm looking at a CBS Sports article. Denver Broncos.
Pete Prisco?
Yeah. Denver Broncos listed as a loser in the draft last year. We played them in the wild card round.
Yes.
We played them in the wild card round ahead of some of the teams that got called winners, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they snuck into the playoffs once again, as Mike Tomlin is wont to do, and then just got embarrassed in front of anybody. Did anyone at any point in time watching the Steelers declare them winners? Like real winners at any point in time last year? I say this because when you take a look at all of the big boards and the different draft stuff that can happen, I still go back to the question that Brandon Beane was asked during his end of season press conference. Or maybe it was at the combine when they were, that was it. They were like, oh, when you're thinking about drafting, are you like looking like, is this where you try to get over the Kansas City Chiefs? Are you who you're scouting and the way you're scouting, is that influenced at all by what Kansas City brings to the table and what they like to do schematically? And his answer was, you don't get to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round again unless you take care of your own division. You handle your business. When you look at the rest of the teams in our division, if we're trying to keep pace and be on pace for what, Chris? Chris, is this our sixth consecutive AFC East title if we make it?
I don't know. I've lost count.
We've won so many.
Yeah.
If past you, if I could take a video of that and just email it to past you when we first started this podcast, be like, just so you know, when we're here getting hammered in your kitchen and screaming at the top of our lungs about Rex Ryan, there's going to be a day where we've won so many that we don't remember how many consecutive AFC East titles we won. When you look at the roster makeup of each team, I don't know what the Bills could do or what these other teams could do to truly close the gap in terms of roster construction. Chris, do me a favor. Pull up the give me the Dolphins roster for a second. One of the things you see with the Buffalo Bills, first of all, the makeup of our offensive line, but it's not just the starting five on our offensive line. It's the depth that we have. When Spencer Brown, it's announced that he's missing the Kansas City Chiefs game, a lot of people's kind of eyebrows raised and they went, oh no, what are we going to do? Ryan Vandermark came in and played right tackle, and you would have never known Spencer Brown wasn't out there. This is an undrafted free agent player that is a solid rotational tackle if and when we need it. We acquired and groomed that. Okay? Now you go back to the Miami Dolphins and you look at that. We not only have 5 starters, we also have quality backups who can play at a moment's notice, and you don't, like, the drop-off is not that noticeable.
And they have Liam Eichenberg.
The Dolphins have Liam Eichenberg penciled into their starting lineup. Okay, Aaron Brewer, great. He was really good. He was a good free agent find for that team last year. James Daniels, he's going to be a good player for them on the interior of the offensive line. Patrick Paul, I don't know if he's good enough to be your starting left tackle, but he is. Like, he's unproven. We know that. He didn't look great when he was asked to play the position. Austin Jackson, he was bad at first, then he was good, then he looked so-so. The reality is probably he's a middling talented tackle. Chris, what do you have behind them? Do you recognize any of those names.
No.
No, I do. But for like Larry Borum, I recognize him because our friend EJ Snyder from the Bear Era podcast, he and his friend had a diatribe about Larry Borum and how this guy probably doesn't, like, they wanted to fire him mid-season last year. They wanted him off the roster. So it makes sense that he's a Miami Dolphin.
You know what I noticed? We're looking at Dolphins Our Lads right here. Just their offensive line as a whole. 4 of them drafted by the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. None of their players are homegrown talents. It's all guys that they've brought in free agency, and then, like, I don't know, they retained them and then brought in a bunch of free agents, and they hope they can fill through the draft. They're going to have to. And there again, where's your depth? You know, the only position that the Dolphins, if you go position group by position group, Chris, look at their wide receiver depth chart. It's Jalen Waddle, that Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, Tyreek Hill. Behind them, do you recognize any of those players' names?
No.
Eric Ezekama hasn't been able to find the football field since being drafted in the 4th round in 2022. D. Eskridge, he was a 2nd round pick, and he's an unknown bust. He's on his 3rd team. Malik Washington, rookie last year, 6th round pick. I don't know what he is. Like, beyond that, it's not great. Tight end, they have Jonnu Smith and then a whole lot of nothing. Chris, where is this team's depth?
They don't have depth anywhere.
Go down to the defense. If they're really serious about losing Jalen Ramsey, your cornerback room is in shambles because Duck Storm and Ethan Bonner are your starters. That can't happen. So to you earlier, when you're like, they have to draft an interior offensive lineman early, you can't afford to have your best cornerback named Storm Duck. That can't happen. Their draft this year is going to be dictated to them. Even in a world where you can tell me, and it makes perfect sense that they should take an interior offensive lineman, they might not be able to. They might have to see what the board brings to them and just take what they can get at that position. So if the cornerback out of Michigan goes early, okay, you can't get an elite level prospect at cornerback, but you still might have to take one. Like us when we had to take Kyer Elam. These are just the things. You've pigeonholed yourself at too many places. You have more pass rushers than you know what to do with. It's the rest of your defensive line that doesn't have enough bodies. So this is all a way to say we're doing a good job at staying ahead of the sticks in regards to the Miami Dolphins. Let's cut over to the New York Jets. What do they have at wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson.
They have Garrett Wilson. They have the newly signed Josh Reynolds. They have Allen Lazard. They have Malachi Corley, who was not allowed to see the football field last year. They've got nothing special to offset the fact that the quarterback that they signed in free agency is not a great passer. Their offensive line, they know they need tackle help, right? Like, you're going to go in there with Carter Warren, and you're going to look at this and say to yourself the same thing that I just said about the Miami Dolphins, except it's worse. Because the money they spent in free agency, they spent it stupidly, and those players aged out and aren't even on the roster anymore. Where is your star power? At least the Dolphins have a Tyreek Hill. What do you as the Jets have that makes you special? One cornerback? That doesn't mean anything to me. One wide receiver? That does not move the needle. I mean, you just look around and start to question, like, running back. You have Breece Hall. Okay, Breece Hall doesn't have a 1,000-yard season to his name yet. So keep telling me that he's a special talent. I don't know. Is he? Chris, if Ashton Jonte's there, falls to them at the 7th pick.
No.
You're an offense with nothing special going for it.
I wouldn't do that.
See, this is why it's going to be interesting to see whether their brain trust likes quality over quantity and how they want to rebuild this football team. The reality is their defense isn't nearly as deep as it used to be either. And that's a defense that the Buffalo Bills found a way to beat twice and embarrass the second time. Like, it was bad. So I'm not really worried about the work that gets done in the next week for this team either. And then there's the New England Patriots, Chris, if you want to cut over there. They went big game hunting this offseason.
Matt Collins.
They went big game hunting in free agency, and they brought in guys like Matt Collins and Garrett Bradbury and Morgan Moses, and they're making, other, I think, lower key moves. Like, Chris, if you scroll down to the defense, they obviously got the big splash on the defensive line, signing Milton Williams away from Philadelphia. They've got what else? Jeremiah Phams, Kyrus Tonga. They've got Christian Barmore if he's healthy enough to play. Like, that's really a wild card for this franchise. That's a decent defensive line if you have a Christian Barmore. If not, you have a whole bunch of Jags on that roster on the defensive line. You as a franchise, even though you spent the money to get Harold Landry and you spent the money to get Milton Williams, you may still have to draft guys on that defensive line. You look at the linebacker core. What do they have? They have Christian Ellis. They paid for a Robert Spillane, who is a tackling machine, right? Tackling machine. He's great. What do you have outside of that? A failed Clavion Chason reclamation project. Anthony Jennings. They
only drafted 2 of their linebackers.
You literally had to rebuild that through the free agency process because you couldn't trust a rookie. There was no way that your coach was going to trust a rookie to come out and start for him this year. So good. You at least have bodies, but do you have meaningful starting talent? I don't know. Probably not. Not nearly as deep as the Buffalo Bills do. I mean, Chris, what's a position of strength looking at the roster right now for the New England Patriots that you say, I feel really good about their level of talent compared to that of the Buffalo Bills?
Probably the D-line.
Okay. Their D-line was
Barmore and Williams.
If Barmore's healthy.
Yeah.
Take him away. Then what?
You could go quarterback.
Okay. Quarterback. How does that stack up to Josh Allen?
No.
Okay.
Not in the same league.
Let's go look at the wide receiver core that we were joking about at the top of the thing. Kayshon Boutte, who he is something. He's a thing. Demario Douglas, another sack. So both 2023 6th round draft picks. You're going to throw Stephon Diggs into the mix. Off an ACL tear, players are never what they were the previous season. It would defy all odds. Like right now, if there's Chris, do me a favor. Can you take a look at DraftKings and see if there's an over-under on Stephon Diggs' yardage for next year? Probably not, because he's coming off an injury and they don't even know if he's going to be ready for camp. I would take the under. I would short that stock all day long because he's old and he's coming off an ACL tear, one of the most devastating injuries in the sport of football. He's probably best served being a player coach in the wide receiver room. I just don't see a world where he's an immediate contributor to that football team. And so in that way, you have Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte, and Chris, back to our lads. Who else do I have here? Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, and Jalen Polk, who were up and down as rookies last year. This is your depth chart. You have nothing special. There is nothing new or positive for this quarterback to work with. So let's say they take a Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, we've talked to multiple people now, both Bruce Nolan of the Bruce Exclusive, and we've also talked to Mark Schofield from SB Nation about wide receivers and cornerbacks this offseason. And both of them agree he's a cornerback first and a wide receiver kind of secondary. It's a nice thing you can sprinkle out there, but that shouldn't be what he does primarily for your team. If you're the Patriots, I don't even know. It might be a 50-50 split on how, if you draft a Travis Hunter with your pick, you might have to use him as a wide receiver because he de facto becomes the most talented guy in your roster. I don't know how you take that and try to hold that up against what the Bills have built in terms of depth and overall varied skill sets and amount of talent that they have and the time on task they have with their quarterback. Like if the Bills just stand pat and they don't add a wide receiver in this draft, I don't know. There's not much the Bills can do here that puts them behind their divisional counterparts, no matter what anyone says. We could add no one and just go into the draft or into the season with what we have today on the roster. And I think that it would be fine.
Yeah. We have Laviska Shenault.
The fact that we have Laviska Shenault on our roster and he's not guaranteed like a spot. Like I think that says a lot about where we've come from, you know? Like remember, do you recall that there used to be a day where we would get excited when we're like, "Oh my god, they like I'm trying to think of some of the guys Andres Pete, I remember when we got him. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys that they brought in. Eric Piers. Who else?
Norman Roosevelt.
No, I'm trying to think of free agent signings. Let's see. Bills 20. Let's just say Bills 2014. Bills 2013 free agents.
Who's that? Didn't they get somebody from Cleveland, a wide receiver that you liked?
Oh my God.
He had a touchdown in the preseason.
Of course he did. So in 2013, the Buffalo Bills signed Kevin Cobb. Okay. They have Kevin Cobb on their roster as like a free agent. Like here's who they picked. You know, veteran additions, Doug Legursky. Don't worry, guys. We went out and got Alan Branch. It's going real well over here. These guys are stars. Guess what our losses were that offseason, Chris? Travaris Jackson. David Nelson. Remember, we lost David Nelson and Donald Jones in the same offseason, and everyone went, "Oh my God." I knew people who were like, "I can't believe that David Nelson's leaving." Why? He's a glorified tight end. We've been playing a glorified tight. We've been playing the Kelvin Benjamin who ate the extra biscuits at wide receiver for the last 2 years. It's pointless. We shouldn't be doing this. You look back at where we used to be when we were in the doldrums, when we couldn't make the playoffs to save our lives, when everything about Bills football sucked. 2011 Bills free agents. Let's look at it. Oh my God, here we go. When we signed Brad Smith, guys, we were getting the Wildcat back.
Wildcat.
Just break in here, dog. Guys, Doug's here. You know, professional podcasting 101. You just bring in guests from the blind side.
You leave Doug Legursky alone, sir. He did nothing wrong for us. You leave that free agent signing alone.
It's so funny.
What up, brother?
Looking at like, what did you do? Hey, we brought in Tyler Thigpen. Guys, Tyler Thigpen was here.
Remember Yancey Thigpen?
Brad Smith. Remember Nick Barnett when we were like, guys, it's going to be cool, though. We got Nick Barnett. He was so good when he was with Green Bay. This is what they're doing. That same conversation, like, oh my God, we got Nick Barnett, Doug. He was so good when he was with Green Bay. He got hurt, but it's okay because when he's coming back from that injury, he's going to be a star for us. You know, this is the same conversation that the Patriots are having about Stephon Diggs right now.
And he's going to be older with a bad knee injury.
So it's this idea that regardless of what the rest of the AFC East does, there is no way, no matter what we do over the next 5 days, there is no way to declare the Buffalo Bills a loser, quote unquote, of the draft.
No.
And you can call them that if you want to. I don't give a shit about who you think, knee-jerk reactionist, who you think is a winner or a loser, because at the end of the day, you have to get to September. And in September, I think we just, the articles that I kind of read through at the beginning of the show, all of the people, do the Pittsburgh Steelers feel like winners to you when it will like by November? Does Trevor Lawrence strike you as a winner of the draft last year? No, This is all nonsense. Did the Denver Broncos look like losers to you last year?
And then they hit it on that quarterback. Cortland Sutton got hot at the end. And they put it together, and they had a great defense.
And bang, and a rookie quarterback who took them to the playoffs and broke their playoff drought.
That's why I'm not worried about those two guys that we're going to miss because of the suspensions for 6 weeks.
No.
It's 6 weeks. Come back fully fresh, ready to rock and roll.
It's just hilarious to me. So what I'm trying to do here, guys, is set the table philosophically for you by showing you that apples to apples, Brandon Beane is absolutely correct. The Kansas City Chiefs, you should consider yourself lucky if you get the opportunity to make it to the divisional round to play them. The way you get a ticket to the dance there is to handle your business in the division. And the way you do that is by just not fucking up your roster, of which right now, from scratch, the Buffalo Bills still have a better roster than the rest of the AFC East.
Yeah.
At almost every single position. Done.
Yeah, they don't have many holes at all. They really don't.
No.
And they shouldn't. They went to the AFC Championship game last year, and you brought back the majority of your core players.
Yeah.
And you extended people, too. So this wasn't like 2 off seasons ago. You know what I mean? When they had the revamp and everything like that. And you can't even call it that because we went to the AFC Championship game.
See, guys, sanity this time of year is hard to come by. I just want you all to remember this, recall it, bask in it. It's nice. Guys, say it with us. Goose Fraba. On Monday, when your hyperbolic coworker comes to you saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe the Bills took a safety with the 50th." You can just like nod and smile and nod the same way I was doing all day today when people approached me being like, "Oh, you're 40. What's it?" It's like, yep. We got to do this hacky thing where I pretend like this is hey. You treat it that way. And you just, that same lack of care, right? Like the same just nihilism about it. You have to have that.
Until 12 weeks in, and that safety becomes the new Cooper DeJean and tears it up and gets you a Super Bowl pick 6. That's what I'm talking about. Here we go to you haters. When we take a safety with the second round, one of our second round picks, you watch in about 14 weeks into the season when he's doing pick 6s and locking it down. Can we trade for Cooper DeJean, please?
Cooper DeJean. It will go down as probably the funniest reaction of draft Twitter of all time. Cooper DeJean, when he got picked.
Love it.
Dude, Twitter was real fun that day.
You know what? I'm hoping that your company, you're probably going to have to do this on Friday, depending on who we draft first round. But I would think, Drew, where you work, Friday they should install a Matt Lauer lock on your door. So you can't leave your office. Nobody can come in and bother you if we take a safety at 30.
That's just smart business if you are Drew's employer.
There's nowhere to hide. Right, like I'm looking at these big boards. Like I don't care about these because I know that they don't reflect the actual thought process of GMs. Something we're going to talk about during tonight's live show.
Correct.
But the idea is, if you somehow bypass all of this talent to take a safety in the first round after taking one last year in the second round, that might be. Let's go around, Chris. Is that what's the worst idea in round 1 for you? Idea. Doesn't have to be a player, just what's the worst idea?
Maybe a wide receiver would be bad. I mean, we need a wide receiver, but we don't have to take one in the first round.
See, not saying that they can't be not saying that they're not a loser doesn't mean there aren't things that we wouldn't like.
They take a backup quarterback.
Okay.
Apparently somebody called Capaccio on the radio today and said they should take a quarterback at 30 because Trubisky sucks. I'd fire the phone screener on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. We'd execute him on air.
Why do people talk? Like, do they not think what comes out of their mouth? Backup quarterback at 30, do it.
You sound like that's it. They sound like the water boy calling into Captain Insano.
The worst. This is, I'll give you this. I'll give you something. I'll give you something worse than a safety.
Because we're going to talk about this on the live show. Bad ideas, things we hate. But what I will say is concepts. For the Bills to put themselves this idea that there's nothing they can do to jeopardize the quality of their roster or to jeopardize our hold on the division, is there a move?
No, you just said it less than 5 minutes ago. Their roster does not have many holes, okay? And with the receiving core, to your credit, that they have and they brought back, and with Palmer coming in, if he could stay healthy, it doesn't matter.
But if they added one,
you have Josh Allen.
And as I'm standing here yelling at you guys about safety, if they added one early, you just took something and made it better. Yeah. You took something where the bar was already set decent at a decent level. You're going to raise it. Our wide receiver core. If you were to go in the top 90 picks and add a wide receiver, you're taking what is already a group that allowed Mac Hollins. That's going to be the fly in the ointment there. Can Keon Coleman pick up some of the slack from Mac Hollins? Because he quietly did a lot of work.
I cannot believe the loss of Mac Hollins actually hurt my soul.
It did hurt.
Like it really did.
It was tough.
It really did.
To the Patriots too.
But did you see what they paid him?
Yeah.
And when you're used to making what, 2?
Mm-hmm.
And did they give him 8 over 2 years? Good for you, man. When you're used to making 2 a year and you just got 8 over 2.
This is how the phone call went. Brandon Beane called his agent, was like, "Hey, so we're thinking about we'll bring you back like a 2-year deal. We'll pay you about 2.5, maybe 3 per. You're a guy here that everybody seems to like, and you found a place in the locker room. The fan base embraced you. Like, let's keep this going. This is good."
Look at that picture. Can you put that up?
That's a mugshot.
He looks like he plays basketball at Pelican Bay. Look at him. He just looks like, I want that guy.
But you know what? That's why he's a dog. He plays.
Yeah.
I said it last year, and I'm not going to say dirtbag football is my favorite football, and Mac Hollins led the charge on that. And so, with that said, Bean called his agent, drops his number, and goes, "Hey, I think I have a reasonable deal." And his agent goes, "Well, I hate to tell you this, but the new guy over there in New England, he offered my client $8 million over 2." And Bean went, "Ho.
Have a good day."
You know what? Thanks for taking my call." And then he hung up the phone. And then he laughed. He walked down. He got a sandwich, right? He went down to the cafeteria, got a sandwich. And then about 20 minutes later, as he's eating his sandwich, he just stopped and went, $8 million.
Look at that. Look at his history.
Philadelphia, okay? Man. Philadelphia, then he gets waived in 2019. Miami claims him. 2022, he's UFA.
Yep.
So they claimed him, then cut him. Then he was back in 2022. Then he gets cut. He must have been cut again because he signs with Vegas as a UFA. Signs with them again in 2023. Atlanta signs him in 2023 after he doesn't make their roster, I'm assuming after training camp. No, all these are in March. So he must have just, this is nuts. How do you play for this many teams in that many years and then somebody dangles $8 million in front of your face?
It's simple.
No,
it's simple. You had Josh Allen throwing you the ball. That matters.
Yeah.
And that's what we've always said. Look what Brady did all those years in New England.
How did Gabe Davis get paid?
But look what he did.
Josh Allen.
Right. But look what Brady did all those years. Turned Welker into a star. Turned Edelman into a star. And look what he did when he got a Hall of Famer in Randy Moss. He broke NFL records. Like, that is what we are blessed to have. We have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
We have the reigning MVP.
So when
whoever they want to add to him in any round, I don't care, just whatever, because it's going to be him making that person better.
You're adding talent to an already level set position. Your offensive line is stocked to a degree where cool, you could add another one.
Yeah.
But also you drafted Cedric Van Pran-Granger, who we'll talk about in tonight's live show.
SEC.
It's the concept of long-term developmental project, or maybe just a dart throw because they had the picks and they were like, hey, we have the luxury because we have a Pro Bowl center. And everyone who got mad, they're like, well, how come the Bills aren't finding a way to get him in the lineup? Because they don't have to.
They don't have to.
Unlike the Dolphins, unlike the Jets, unlike the Patriots, we don't have to we're not lifting up rocks trying to find starting offensive linemen.
No, what did your Nick Saban Alabama coach do forever? Yeah. He had 4- and 5-star recruits as second and third string.
My favorite was there's a story, real quick before we wrap this up, guys. There's a story that Manti Te'o told on ESPN, and he was talking about the day of the national title game that the Tide played the Fighting Irish. And he's like, we're in the tunnel, we're getting fired up, we're the away team, they're the whites. And so they're standing there in their white jerseys and they're waiting because the home field team takes the field first. And so the way that stadium kind of sets up, there's a tunnel that convenes with another tunnel from both locker rooms, and then you get out onto the field out of one entrance. And he goes, we're standing there at the mouth of the thing, and we're getting all fired up, and I'm getting, we're all cracking helmets, and we're getting each other fired up, hey, rah, rah, rah. He goes, and all of a sudden we hear this noise. We just hear this sound. And we look up the tunnel, and leading the charge down Alabama's tunnel is the starting offensive line for Alabama's team. And it's Chance Warmack. It's like 3 guys who got drafted into the NFL that year. And they've all got their shirts rolled up. He goes, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. He goes, I've seen linebackers with 6-packs do this. These guys had their shirts rolled up and they had their bellies hanging out. And they were running down the tunnel, and Chance Warmack, like a Mack truck, is going whoop, whoop, as he's running down the hall, like he's blowing a horn on a semi-truck. And as he ran past the Notre Dame players, he turned to them and just went, shh.
And they mollywomped Notre Dame.
And he said right then and there, I turned around and looked at my teammates, and the look of fear on their faces, because that was the first time they'd seen him up close. They were like, wait a minute, I got to contend with that guy? Mm-hmm. And 3 guys built just like him? Oh, no.
And that's Notre Dame football for you. There's only one team in college football that wants to see that, and that's Michigan. That's Go Blue. They're going to love it.
It was just so funny. Like, that's what happens, right? That's the Bills' offensive line right now. We have the luxury. Like, everyone's like, Cedric Van Pran Granger, great. I go, no. We have a Pro Bowl center. We have a center who, whether it was as an intermediate, what do you call him, interim guy or not?
So what?
Backup, reserve, whatever you want to call him. He made the show.
Yep.
We have Deion Dawkins. We have Spencer Brown, certified dirtbag football veterans.
They have an absolutely solid offensive line. It has taken them a couple tries to put it together.
Sure.
But we got it right now. So you want to bring in him like they did the other year? He's an SEC national champion starter.
Yeah.
I'll take that on my bench all day. Oh, and by the way, he's learning from multiple Pro Bowl offensive
And they're
linemen.
saying, man, it's tough because he can't get on the field. This Alec Anderson guy.
You think, and Alec Anderson, he is that, what did you just say? He's that Mac Holland, nasty thug football. That's what he is. He's our Pelican Bay offensive line. He's the dude, hey, man, did I foul you? No, you didn't foul me, baby. Good game. That's right. That's what he does. He goes through. I don't care if that guy gets a 15-yard flag once a game.
Nope.
I want him to be nasty.
We have built things at every single level of this roster that no one else in the division has. So, in all the hyperbole that this weekend is going to be, I want you to remember that. We have the best offensive line in the AFC East today, right now. And there's no single draft pick or combination of draft picks that the Dolphins or the Jets or the Patriots can cobble together that's going to make up for that. At least not this season, right? They can try to close ground.
Because
they can try.
The Dolphins can't. The Dolphins have the worst defense in the AFC East.
They can try to close ground in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, Brandon Beane has put on a masterclass of retooling the salary cap while maintaining and building a salary floor. And it really is just like, that's the strength of this team. And so when you want to look at what he does in the draft and people want to say, oh, see Brandon Beane, he's doing this thing and he's doing that thing again, and we hate this and we hate that. Remember who you're talking to. You're talking to, and you're talking about the guy who built a roster that's lost how many divisional round games? That's gone to how many AFC title games? Like,
is it 4 divisions in a row? Are we on 4?
4 or 5.
We haven't lost in the wild card round.
We're on. No, it's 4 because
we haven't lost in the wild card round since 2019.
Right, and that was to Houston.
And that was that night I scarred your parents. They'll never watch football with me again.
Yeah, you went nuts. And we blew the lead.
Yeah,
and then we came back, and that was that was something. Josh Allen caught a touchdown.
Yep. Meanwhile,
by smoke.
None of the teams in the AFC East behind us have even come close to having their Houston Texans game moment in the wild card round.
Yeah, no.
They've made it and gotten embarrassed.
Was that the last time Deshaun Watson was good?
Yes.
Do you remember we had
In
two
fact,
guys?
I've got a hot take about Deshaun. I have a theory that Deshaun Watson was never good. I looked at some of the numbers at the request of a friend who hated Deshaun Watson before he became a Browns quarterback, and he's a Browns fan. And he was like, this guy's a scumbag, and all he was a fourth quarter comeback merchant. So I looked at some of his statistics. Do you know that he spent like a wild percentage of his games trailing? And so when you look at his numbers and you go, oh, he threw all these crazy touchdowns. How come he didn't win more games? If you're so good, how come your team's never winning?
You know who we are right now? And this is like, I had this conversation actually at work today. And I think it holds water. We are the Peyton Manning Indianapolis Colts before they finally broke through and beat the Saints for a Super Bowl.
Sure. I would
Or not
buy
the
that.
Saints. Who they beat?
They beat the Bears.
They beat
when
the
Rex,
Bears.
And Rex Grossman sacked himself.
That's right.
He sacked himself twice in that game.
And do you remember? How did the Bears start that game? They returned
Kickoff
the
return by
kickoff.
Devin Hester. I
That's
remember
right.
I was at the pizzeria picking up our food. I was like, I'm missing the greatest game ever. That game will go down as the GOAT only because Prince did the halftime show.
Prince, R.I.P. But right, that's
Hey.
fair. That's fair though.
Turn one up for the man.
Prince.
To Prince.
Purple Rain. Ophelia. But that's fair though. That's fair. I think that's who the Bills are right now. They are the Peyton Manning Indianapolis Colts before they got the threshold.
And
he could not get through.
You just
past
don't want
Brady.
him to be the Philip River Chargers.
No, that's what. No, we've passed that.
So-
that we've passed.
I don't think we have.
I do.
Make the show, and then we can talk about it. But until then, there's no matter what anyone says, no matter how well or not well in your mind this draft goes, just know it doesn't change the fact that the AFC still goes through Buffalo, New York. Guys, this has been fun, but for right now, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. This is Doug Orlowski. This has been your, not an AFC's roundup, but it kind of was, Rock Pile Report.